Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees dropped their third straight series. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Atlanta Braves. And the Yankees have lost 6 of the last 8 games, 7 of the last 10 games. And not a great time for the Yankees. And Giancarlo Stanton is now on the injured list with a left hamstring strain. And this was inevitable. Like, you know it's going to happen. And it's too bad. He was on a 10-game hitting streak. He's really had a very nice season. But he's not going to stay healthy for a full season. It's a near impossibility at this point. It just is. And in game 2, the game the Yankees actually won, on an RBI hit by Gleyber Torres, Stanton just kind of innocently jogging from second to home, crosses third base, and, you could see him grimacing, and sure enough, he's going to be out at least 4 weeks. I think it's going to be more than Stanton kind of said 4 weeks. I think in a best case scenario, he's back by early August. I think more likely it's going to be beyond that. And the thing with Stanton is once he gets back, it's going to take him a long time to get going. So I think in a best case, you get back to what Stanton was doing now in September. And we've seen this so many times. It's just so frustrating, but it's par for the course for Stanton. And it's a big loss to the lineup because the way I look at it, as it was, the Yankees were struggling against left-handed pitching. And like I've said previously, if there's one that you prefer to struggle against more, it would be left-handers. They're, of course, lefties than righties. But that's a problem. And just looking to this next Mets series, it's kind of smart what they did, where it could have been Severino, who's a righty, but instead they're going to go David Peterson, who's a lefty. I think I've been saying this for a while now. If at all possible, teams should try to line up lefty starters versus the Yankees. And in this Braves series, sure enough, and they're 2 great lefties, Chris Sale and Max Fried, but the Yankees struggled against them, and those are the 2 games that they lost. But for Stanton, as far as the splits, interestingly enough, he's actually been better versus righties than lefties this year, but still, that's still a really big loss for many, many reasons. And here's the thing that makes it worse is that Jason Dominguez, he's hurt too. He's going to be out. He might be out longer than Stanton. I mean, it's been termed as an 8-week injury. So that's the unfortunate thing. It's all right, Stanton gets hurt. Let's give Dominguez a look. Nope, he's out. So now the Yankees acquired J.D. Davis from the Oakland A's. So J.D. Davis, it's an interesting acquisition. It makes sense. And his numbers really weren't all that terrible with Oakland. He was designated for assignment, but J.D. Davis, he batted this year, in 123 at-bats, a .236 average, a .670 OPS, and 4 homers. So nothing crazy, but he actually was doing well before they designated from assignment. He actually had been hitting the ball well for the 3 weeks previous to that. J.D. Davis this year has been pretty good versus lefties. .265 batting average with a .795 OPS. Not bad. So he'll be someone that I think is going to be in more of a platoon role. And it's ironic that his likely first Yankee at-bats will be against the Mets, where if you look back at it, that is where most of his career was, with the Mets. Came up with the Astros, got kind of some part-time played on sort of a bit role for a couple of years with the Astros, and then really became a starter with the Mets. Played 140 games in 2019 with them, 56 in 2020, but keep in mind that was a 60-game season. And then 2021, he must have been hurt. He played 73 games, and then 2022 was traded from the Mets to San Francisco, where he played a full season with the Giants last season, and then this year was with Oakland. So he's someone that's got a bit of pop, not much of a fielder. And in his career, he's played mostly third base, but apparently with Oakland this year, his range, he hasn't been great over at third. So I think it's going to be more of a first base / DH type role for J.D. Davis, which is a little bit tough because I actually like what Ben Rice has done. I don't even really mind going Ben Rice versus lefties. Look, I don't think that they're going to eliminate that. I think that we'll see it a little bit, but I want Ben Rice in that lineup for now. I like what I've seen from him, even if the stats don't really jump off the page. for Rice, but I would want that. And I doubt they would do this, but is there any thoughts maybe like considering Ben Rice? Like, is Ben Rice a catcher like any possibility at all? It wouldn't appear that way, but it's, worth considering, especially with J.D. Davis in the mix. Oswald Peraza, I mean, I guess we have a lot of sort of transactions to discuss. This episode, I think, is going to be more thought-based and more chronicling the Yankee state than so much the series itself, but of course we will get into it. But Oswald Peraza had been called up briefly just for this past game, for the final game, which he didn't appear in, and then he was sent down because J.D. Davis is going to take his spot. So Peraza, who struggled in AAA, we won't be seeing him unless, I guess, another injury unfolds. But, yeah, just tough. And the Yankee lineup, it's not in a great state. And even Alex Verdugo, like he's 0 for his last 15. Really, ever since he had that great game in his first game back in Fenway, ever since then, the last, what has it been, 8 games, has been really bad for Verdugo. And look, I think he'll turn it around. I'm not concerned, but it's just stating the facts. DJ LeMahieu is just basically cooked, and it's sad to see. But he's someone that I would not be giving regular run to. And let's just put it like I don't know why this is the number I come up to, but let's put it like in a 6-game term. He seems to be playing, to me, maybe 5 out of every 6 games. In my opinion, it should be more like 3. I mean, really, it should even be less, but like, you're dealing with injuries and he is a veteran and you do have him under contract. So I understand that you're not just going to jettison him. He should be getting really 50-50 time. And what's too bad is, like, I'm not saying Oswaldo Cabrera has had good. I'm not saying that Cabrera, you look at his numbers, they're not that great, but he did have a couple of nice hits in game 2. Let him get a little bit more run. And so I kind of look at that in the LeMahieu comparison, right? Like J.D. Davis, it doesn't seem like the Davis acquisition is going to really affect LeMahieu much. Maybe slightly, but not too much. But when it comes to just thinking about third base, I think Oswaldo, against righties, should get some opportunity. And look, I think that's going to happen every now and then. We did see it versus Charlie Morton. Maybe it is already underway. And the fact they've been facing lefties has maybe made it seem like LeMahieu has more of the stranglehold on it. But that's just a thought there. It's just tough. Gleyber Torres has been a really, really bad year for Gleyber. He's batting below 220. So just not good all around. But let's get into some bullpen stuff. So Victor González, before game 1, was designated for assignment. Didn't necessarily expect that to happen, but it did. And, I think he's going to be someone that, he'll latch on somewhere else. The lefties normally do. And, look, the walk to strikeout ratio was definitely concerning. And you could tell the Yankees didn't really fully trust him. The fact is that, look, as far as run prevention, he wasn't really giving up that many runs. And obviously that's kind of the name of the game, but I understand why there was concern. But I was a little bit surprised. I'm not saying I fully disagree with it, but I didn't think it would happen. But Victor González gone, at least for now. But like I said, don't be surprised if you hear that, the Yankees have made, a trade with a team where Victor González goes elsewhere. In the meantime, as I had said last episode, Ron Marinaccio was sent down. And so that meant that 2 players were called up, Yoendris Gomez being one of them. And we'll talk about him. He really had a very nice, in mop-up duty, had a really nice performance in game 1. He's looked kind of impressive, so curious to see what that brings. And then Phil Bickford, who is a guy that would be most known with the Dodgers, came up, made his major, I shouldn't say came up, but he made his major league debut with Milwaukee. Then he was on the Dodgers, then the Mets last year. And then this year he's been in Scranton with the Yankees AAA club. He actually appeared in game 1 and 2. It's a ragtag crew in that pen. It really, really is. And look, Tommy Kahnle seems to be maybe turning a corner. As we know, Luke Weaver and Michael Tonkin have been getting the job done. So, maybe there are some pieces there. Scott Effross, it seems like he's not too far off. I'm curious to see what he brings. He could be a high leverage guy, but there's a lot of question marks in that pen. So much. But that's not really, as far as this episode, the bullpen really did a very nice job. In fact, they might not have even allowed a single run. So kudos to the pen. But again, that is an issue. But yeah, Yankees not playing good ball and struggling against good competition. I mean, the Dodgers series, that one, look, some of it is injury based. A lot of it actually kind of is injury based, but I still don't think that's a fair thing to say because they're kind of getting shellacked. And let's just kind of transition into the series. Yankees lose game one, 8-1 to the Braves. And the Braves lately have been playing better. They were struggling for a while in the aftermath of Ronald Acuna being out for the season, as well as Spencer Strider. But there's still a lot of talent on that Brave team, and they will be heard from. And Carlos Rodon really, really got lit up. And this was after Luis Gil the day before. He got beaten, to a pulp by the Baltimore Orioles. So Rodon ends up going 3 2/3, 11 hits, 8 runs, 7 of those earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, and allows 3 homers. So a lot to unpack here. So they had that 76-game streak to start the season of Yankee starters going at least 4 innings, and then 2 in a row, it doesn't happen. So Rodon, the record drops to 9-4. And again, that record to me is misleading. It just is. Like, it's win-loss isn't fair because you look at Nestor Cortez, Nestor's not really getting the run support. And so we'll get to Nestor in game 3, but his record is not great. Rodon's is 9-4, yet Rodon has a higher ERA. A 3.86 ERA, only 84 strikeouts and 88 2/3 innings and a 1.21 whip. Is it better than last year? Yeah. It couldn't be much worse than last year. But for me, I will give and have given Rodon praise when he deserves it. But I don't know. I just don't really have a lot of faith in him. I mean, this was someone that was unbelievable. He was gross in a good way in 21 and 22 with the White Sox and the Giants. A strikeout machine. And not only that, he wasn't really walking. Like, the walks were down. Everything about it was great. Opposing batting average. Last year was just as bad as it could be in every which way. And this year's been better, right? It's been better. But this is not the guy the Yankees thought that they were getting. They signed him to a 6-year deal. He hasn't been that. And so, look, maybe we can just chalk it up to 2 bad starts, because before that he was very good, right? Maybe we can. I'm a little bit skeptical on Carlos Rodon and what he's going to provide you come playoff time. I don't know. I just think that, again, the concern for me is there's an inability to dominate. And look, good for him for finding a way to be a pitcher at times when he doesn't have the grade A stuff. Good for him to he's stuck with it. And I'll give him that. It doesn't completely, unravel on him, but it kind of did in this Brave game. He wasn't really able to kind of get back to, at least that Red Sox game, he kind of was able to turn out a halfway okay outing. This one wasn't the case. After the game before, the Yankees got absolutely embarrassed. So not what you're looking for at all. As far as this game was concerned, this was a very ugly looking lineup. Gleyber Torres was out again. He came back. If you remember, he was dealing with some groin tightness. He's all right. Jahmai Jones was batting 5th in this game. Yes. Just craziness. Absolute craziness. And this is with Stanton in the lineup. It wasn't as if, Stanton was out. No, he was in, and Jones batted 5th. But yeah, no Gleyber in this one. I'm trying to think who anyone else of note. Verdugo got a night off in this one, too. The Yankees faced Chris Sale. And the funny thing about Chris Sale is he has really been kind of a non-factor in many ways for the last 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years, where either A, he's been hurt, or when he's faced the Yankees have crushed him. But not on this time in this year. Sale 10-2 now with a 2.91 ERA, goes 5 innings, only allows 1 hit, and quite honestly, it was a misplay. It was a triple by Jahmai Jones that Adam Duvall just kind of botched. 1 earned run, and that really shouldn't have been earned, and 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. So Chris Sale has been one of the best pitchers in baseball, and he showed it in this one. Let's go through it. And right away, Ozzie Albies 2-run homer. Second pitch of the game. Single Kelenic, 2-run homer. Albies, the 6th homer of the year. And then Austin Riley, who struggled this season, surprisingly. Austin Riley, I view, is definitely one of the better hitters in baseball. He hits a solo shot to make it 3-0. Top of the second, Braves had another one. And it would be an RBI single by Jared Kelenic, and Kelenic had a really nice series. the former Met prospect, coming into his own a little bit and now kind of settling into that leadoff spot. And the Braves take a 4-0 lead. Then in the second, as I mentioned previously, Jones gets that kind of fortunate triple, and then DJ LeMahieu with an RBI ground out to make it 4-1. We go to the top of the third, and the Braves score, and it's with 2 outs. And the unfortunate thing is Rodon almost kind of got out of a jam, doesn't quite do it as Ramon Laureano hits an RBI double to give the Braves a 5-1 lead. And then the fourth inning is where it really breaks open. And again, it's a 2-out situation where Matt Olson, lefty. It's a 2-run shot for Olson, his 12th homer of the year. And then an RBI double by Sean Murphy makes it 8-1. And this was a play where they give, and correctly so, Jahmai Jones an error. As if he fields this cleanly in the corner, it's probably just second and third. But instead, Murphy goes to third, and Riley scores. Makes it 8-1. But then Yoendris Gomez comes in and does the job. Again, it was a situation where the score was lopsided. The result of the game was essentially, we knew it was going to win. But still, the bullpen needed it, and he provided it. And what's kind of cool, too, is I thought, all right, maybe they'll just send him right down. They didn't. He's still with the team, so clearly there may be a role for Gomez. 4 2/3 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. So the 3 walks, that's, maybe a little cause for concern, but the other number is really good. And like I said, 78 pitches in those 4 2/3 innings, and Phil Bickford would be the one to get the final 2 outs. So in his Yankee debut, gets a strikeout. Bickford, this weekend looked pretty good. Maybe he'll have some role. Similar to kind of the rise of Michael Tonkin. Maybe some of that happens with Phil Bickford. We'll see. But anyway, Yankees, not much else to get into, honestly. Yankees lose 8-1. And they are only able to muster those 3 hits. That triple by Jones, single by Volpe, who's been good, and a single by Stanton, who had been good until we will talk about what happens in the next game with him with that hamstring strain. Game 2. Game 2 was a good game for the Yankees, but even in that one, you get the Giancarlo injury. But it's Charlie Morton against Marcus Stroman, and Morton struggled. 5 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 5 earned runs, 5 walks, 4 strikeouts. So he, Morton, who's, up there in age, been around for a long time, you can tell that, because he really hit a point. He was kind of a guy that struggled early in his career, kind of bounced around a bit and really found it with the Astros and really has put together some really, really solid numbers in recent seasons. But, it seems as if he is on the decline, and that makes sense. But for the Yankees, Marcus Stroman, really nice outing for Stroman. Unfortunately for him, he does allow a 2-run homer at the end, but 6 2/3, 3 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. It really was a good outing for Stroman, and the Yankees needed it. So Stroman, 7-3 with a 3.15 ERA. And so you'll take that. The other numbers surrounding it don't look great, but hey, he is someone who you look at, he's kind of in the back end of this rotation. And if that's the expectation, and to me it is, then that's fine. He's certainly not a number 2 or number 3, but as a 4 or 5, he's kind of giving you what you need. And this is a pretty clutch outing for Stroman, I would say, too, as the Yankees needed it. And so as bad as it's been for the Yankees, they still, and this isn't me giving them praise, but it's just the fact, they have not been swept yet this season. And that is key to kind of just mitigate some of the struggles. But pretty consistent effort by the lineup in this one all the way through. Again, the struggles for Verdugo continue, although he did reach base once in this game. But yeah, I think all the starters reached base at least one time. No DJ LeMahieu in the starting lineup. He would come in as a defensive replacement for Ben Rice at first. But yeah, Braves jump out to the lead. And that's been a thing. Yankees have not had the lead in a game, I think, since. And I understand they're the home team, so naturally the road team is going to have a better chance to take the lead. But still, that's been a struggle for the Yankees lately. Marcell Ozuna in the first inning hits his 21st homer of the season. Just been an unbelievably great season for Marcell Ozuna. But the Yankees do respond, and who does it? Aaron Judge. His 28th homer of the year after a Soto walk. It's a 2-run shot for Judge, who is on pace for about 56, 57 home runs. if he stays healthy, he is going to be in that conversation for right around 60. And, I wouldn't be totally shocked if it ends up being like a 2022 situation. You can really argue that his numbers this year are better than where they were at this point in 2022 for Aaron Judge. So 2-1 Yankees. We go to the bottom of the third, and Yankees score one more run. They get bases loaded, no out, and Judge hits a double play. So not the ideal result, but the Yankees do get a run there as Oswaldo Cabrera scores. He had a leadoff single. So the Yankees take a 3-1 lead. We go to the bottom of the fourth, and this is where Giancarlo Stanton gets hurt. It's a leadoff double for Stanton on somewhat of a misplay by Ramon Laureano as far as maybe, I don't know. I guess the point is that anyone besides Stanton would have ended up on third easily, but with Giancarlo, he's on second. But okay. Next play, Ben Rice lines out to Ramon Laureano, and Stanton has to kind of scamper over back to second. He gets back. So no concern yet, but all I'm saying is there's a lot of things that, Stanton is involved in. And then Gleyber Torres gets an RBI double to make it 4-1. And on this play, you didn't know it at the time, but you come to find out in a little bit that Trent Grisham is seen on the on-deck circle for Stanton in a few innings after this. And then they show the replay, and you see Stanton grimacing in pain as he scores on the Torres double. So it's it's termed a mild left hamstring strain for Stanton. And he said that he'll be out 4 weeks. And I think that's kind of a bare minimum. So just sad to see, but not surprising to see. So Grisham would take over for him. And actually, Trent Grisham did a nice job, giving the Yankees a little bit of offense in game 2 and in game 3. So if he can kind of be something, that would be great. They really need it. And I know he's struggled a lot this year offensively. So 4-1 Yankees, Stroman, in cruise control for a while. Yankees tack on more runs in the bottom of the 6th. And it's a 2-out, not a 2-out rally. There's a 1-out walk by Ben Rice, and then Aaron Bummer, the lefty, comes in and has his struggles. He walks Austin Wells. Then you get a 2-run single by Oswaldo Cabrera as Wells scores from first because it was a full count, so he's running. Wells has some decent speed for a catcher, but a big for Oswaldo as a righty. Just something to think about. So 6-1, then a Volpe double, then a Soto walk, and then a bases loaded situation for Aaron Judge. He walks. Makes it 7-1 Yanks, and then Verdugo grounds out. Then in the 7th inning is when Stroman can't quite get out of it. It's a 2-run homer for Travis d'Arnaud. His 7th homer of the year makes it 7-3. Then at the bottom of the 7th, Jesse Chavez comes in, and Trent Grisham with an opposite field homer. Down the left field line, his 4th homer of the season gives the Yankees an 8-3 lead in the 8th. And I should mention that Michael Tonkin got the final out of the 7th inning. In the 8th, it'd be Luke Weaver, who pitches a scoreless 8th. And then the 9th, Phil Bickford goes 1-2-3. So Yankees win 8-3. And now we head to the rubber game. And the Yankees would lose that rubber game. And so where the Yankees started out 6-0 in rubber games, have now lost 3 straight. So where that was a stat that was pretty impressive and something to be proud of, now, it feels a lot different. So the pitching matchup was between Max Fried and Nestor Cortes, and this was certainly the best of the bunch. This ended up being, a really nice start for Max Fried and for Nestor Cortes. So Fried goes 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, 4 strikeouts. It's been a good year for him, as he'll be an impending free agent. And then Nestor Cortes, makes a couple, I would even really maybe just say 1 or 2 mistakes in this game, but it costs him. He goes 7 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, no walks, 7 strikeouts. So his record drops to 4-6, but he's got that 3.40 ERA. I like the walk to strikeout ratio. I got to say, Nestor, the record is misleading. I'll say that. And the whip is 1.07. Pretty good whip, too. And the big thing is that home road split. Like, he is great at Yankee Stadium. Like, really, really good. He's just got to pick it up on the road. The road has been no doubt a struggle for Nestor. His last start against Kansas City was good, though. So hopefully, he can pick that up. But, and his next start will be on the road when the Yankees take on Toronto. So we'll see what happens there as he takes on a struggling Blue Jays club. But that's a conversation for another day. Stanton, at this point, of course, is placed on the IL. Peraza on the bench, but wouldn't appear in the game. No Oswaldo, again, a little bit disappointing just because he had a nice night the night before, but against the lefty, they don't want to do it. And so, Verdugo batting cleanup against lefty, that's not ideal either. It just isn't. He is batting close to 200 versus lefties and is really struggling. But look, the options aren't great. Torres batting fifth is not good. LeMahieu batting sixth is not good. We can go, around and around, and none of it is really what you'd want it to be. But anyway, in the third, the Braves break through on a Jared Kelenic homer, his 7th homer of the season, lefty versus lefty, and give Kelenic credit. When he first hit it, didn't think it was going to go out, but it did. So the Braves take a 1-0 lead. Then in the 5th, the Braves score a couple more runs, and it was too bad. A couple of 0-2 hits. And, it wasn't like it was bad pitches by Nestor. They were out of the strike zone. You just wish maybe it was a little bit further out, but I can't really blame him too much. 1-out single by Laureano on one of those 0-2 hits. Then Arcia with a double makes it 2nd and 3rd. And then Jared Kelenic sac fly on a 3-1 count, makes it 2-1, and then with 2 out, this was a pretty big hit. Ozzie Albies on an 0-2 pitch is able to serve it into right center field for an RBI single to make it 3-0 Braves. Then the Yankees' best opportunity comes in the 6th inning. Trent Grisham leadoff single, and he got a couple of hits today, Grisham, against Max Fried. And this is what I was saying. This is why the Jahmai Jones pinch hitting for Grisham against the Orioles really was a bit mind-boggling, because Trent Grisham in his career has held his own versus lefties. But then Anthony Volpe gets the 1 RBI of the day, an RBI double to score Grisham and make it 3-1. And now here's Juan Soto. This was a big play in the game. Soto, during this at-bat, hit a ground ball down the third baseline that was just foul. That was a big play. But then Soto hits a ground ball to the shortstop side of second. Arcia throws Volpe out at third. So, with Volpe, I'm not that upset that he tried to do it. If it somehow worked out and they threw to third and he was safe, then all of a sudden you're set up. And so I kind of understand the logic, but I could also see someone saying, hey, you can't make that first out at third. It was a close play. They reviewed it, but he was out. And for Soto, as much as amazing as he's been, and I know, for me, this is someone that I think will deliver in the big moments in October, however many there may be. But Soto, it's been a bit of a struggle lately. Not as bad as, let's say, Verdugo, but Soto in that spot would have liked a better result. Doesn't happen. And then Aaron Judge singles to kind of make it a little more frustrating. So 1st and 2nd, 1 out. Alex Verdugo, with a 3-1 count, he grounds into a soft 6-3 double play. That's not good. And so the score remains 3-1. Cortez finishes out 7 innings. Let's go to the 8th. Tommy Kahnle strikes out the side. So again, he's been kind of coming around lately. In the 8th inning, kind of a controversial strikeout for Juan Soto, where he was looking for timeout. The home plate umpire didn't grant it to him, and Joe Jimenez, puts it right down the middle and strike 3. So that was kind of tough to see. 9th inning, Clay Holmes. He gets a 1-2-3 inning. Hopefully that gets him going a bit. Not a huge situation as he's accustomed to, but down by 2, he holds it there. And then Raisel Iglesias, the closer, comes on, and he puts the Yankees down 1-2-3 to give the Braves the series win. And so the Yankees have dropped 3 straight series, and they're now 52-28. Lucky for them, the Orioles were swept by the Astros. So as far as the division was concerned this weekend, they actually gained a game. So they're tied in the loss column with the Orioles, but the Yankees have 3 more wins. So that's the good news there, all considered. But interestingly enough, in terms of American League, the Cleveland Guardians have actually surpassed the Yankees on percentage points. Now, technically, the Yankees are half game ahead because they have, I think 3 more wins, but Cleveland has 2 less losses. So, in my talk about, it's destined to be Yankees versus Orioles in the ALDS, the one thing I had said, not necessarily, if somehow Cleveland is able to keep this up and come in first place in the AL, then all of a sudden that changes the bracket situation where all of a sudden the Yankees Orioles, if it were to happen, would be in the ALCS. But again, that's a conversation for another time, as we are just only about halfway through the season, a little bit less than that, actually. And the Phillies, they are outright ahead of the Yankees. So just a little update there. It's as far as percentage points, it's Phillies, Guardians, Yankees, Orioles. But the Orioles are the main team to look at. And so in that bit, it could have been worse. So now Yankees, Mets, And it's a Met team that, as I'm recording this, is playing well. This is before Sunday Night Baseball, so don't know whether the Mets Cubs series is tied, and they're looking to win the series. And if they do so, they've won. I think that'd be a streak for them. They've definitely been playing a lot better. They're in the kind of nationally wild card race, so there should be a little bit of juice to this. But again, if the Mets were to lose the Sunday night game, it could dial it back just a little bit. But either way, they're in it. Even though their record is not great. But the pitching matchups are as follows: Garrett Cole making his second start of the season against David Peterson, the lefty. And then it'll be Luis Gil coming off of his worst start of the year against the Orioles. He'll toe the slab against Sean Manaea, another lefty. So, look, on paper, you would think advantage Yankees, but Cole is only making his second start. Gil's coming off of a really tough outing, and the Yankees have their struggles against left-handed pitching. So that's kind of, why I say, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. And look, the kind of the less bold prediction is that this ends up being a 2-game split, right? There's no, just kind of that's the way that it tends to go sometimes, but we'll see what happens. Bragging rights on the line, I guess, if you want to say it, when these two teams play. But Yankees will technically hit the road. Not really. They're just going from the Bronx to Queens. And then we'll really actually go on the road more so when they have a 4-game set across the border against the Toronto Blue Jays, a team that's really, really struggling. Much more than I would have ever imagined. We'll see what happens. Yankees really need to turn things around. Giancarlo Stanton hits the injured list. J.D. Davis will presumably make his Yankee debut, ironically, at Citi Field against the Mets. So that should be an interesting storyline. And Yankees have dropped their 3rd straight series. Their record now sits at 52-28. They hope to turn things around, and we'll see if they can do it against the Mets.